Have you ever tried to pass a stupid law and have it blown up in your face? This is Alan with Quarter Horse Arms, and in this podcast, I kind of want to talk about what's going on and has been going on in Illinois. For those of you that don't follow the news or unaware, Illinois, and in particular Cook County, which is where Chicago's located, has some incredibly restrictive gun laws. And, before I launch into what's been going on or where they got to today, they are under all kinds of fire by judges throughout the state. And a lot of them, they're striking down the assault weapons ban, saying it violates the state constitution. Another judge is striking down ban on high-powered guns, which I haven't bothered looking up, but the reality is high-powered rifle could be an AR or it could be a hunting rifle. But regardless of, those particular laws, the original law that the governor signed into effect, in part was related to, the Highland Park shooting. And when it got to court, or by the time it got to court to challenge it, there were over 2,000 lawsuits. And part of these were supported by the NRA, Illinois gun clubs, everyday people, and the NSSF, the National Shooting Sport Foundation. And so the way they worded the law, which was ridiculous, was, as follows. They were getting rid of or banning guns that had a pistol grip, a forward grip, a folding stock, a barrel shroud, a grenade launcher, a threaded barrel, a detachable magazine, a semi-automatic version of an automatic weapon, which presumably means they're going after AR-15s, and any weapon greater than 50 ounces, which is just a little over 3 pounds, which would pretty much ban every weapon except pistols, and it might even ban some of those. I mean, there are some fairly heavy weapons out there, and anything that has a buffer tube, in an attempt to get rid of weapons that are semi-automatic. I mean, this is kind of encompassing. And at the time, there were 7 states with similar laws. And if you've listened to a couple of my earlier podcasts where I talked about this, the stuff they're trying to ban has appeared in several states: Maryland, New York, Connecticut. And I swear to God that these people just read each other's stuff and don't bother asking anyone what makes sense. I've seen exactly 2 grenade launchers attached to weapons. I don't know that they're readily available. I mean, I guess if you want to get a transferable version or have the licensing that might allow you to manufacture one, you could. But it's just dumb. And define a barrel shroud. Most of us, when we fire a weapon, do not want our hands getting burned. So, what are they attempting? Well, they attempted to do what several other states had done. And how did it blow up? Well, for starters, the judge it went in front of clearly had some gun-savvy people working in his office, or he had some firearms enthusiasts. The law was written in such a vague manner that the judge required them to show each and every item, not gun, but item, that they were attempting to ban, which meant they would have to produce images, excuse me, or they would have to produce the actual item, which would include flash hiders, all the different brands of detachable magazines, all the folding or collapsible stocks, all the barrel shrouds. Well, I don't know what a barrel shroud is, but let's assume that they're talking about the rail systems, quad rails, key mod, whatever. And then they're going to have to produce every type of weapon, every buffer tube that goes on those weapons, every bolt or bolt carrier group, trigger, forestock grips, flash hiders. You kind of get where I'm going with this. This time in Illinois, the people that brought the suit and the people that, or the judge it went in front of, were smart enough to look at it and go, what a bunch of morons. So they would have to come up with presumably tens of thousands of items. Because if they're attempting to ban something with a buffer tube, I would assume that means you would have to have the receiver that mounts to the buffer tube. So, other than having some very smart lawyers, some angry citizens, some firearms enthusiast organizations, and a smart judge, he kind of put a stop to the stupidity. And a couple of places like, Maryland saw the writing on the wall and immediately repealed that act or that law. And it's coming up in other states. For example, we go to California. Obviously, they've had a couple of horrific shootings, Half Moon Bay. And here's where the challenges are coming up with this in court. And my expectation is that fairly soon you'll see the judge that this case is in front of is going to overturn the California assault weapon ban. And so what the judge has basically said there are challenges to the Second Amendment. You have to review the text and historical tradition behind these, not the state's interest versus civil liberties. So what he's saying is, essentially, you can't ban a gun because you think it's in the state's best interest. Continuing forward, where did Governor Newsom get himself into more trouble? Well, the Bruen decision in New York, and it also impacted New Jersey and Connecticut because obviously this was a Supreme Court decision. So now people challenging laws are kind of banding together going, well, that worked out kind of interesting. And, one of the reasons for that was in the Supreme Court, the decision was 6-3. It wasn't close to a split decision. Now, did they probably vote on belief lines like conservatives going, yeah, let's go for it? And so what looks like they're going to be going for in California is not only do you have to define what a sensitive area is, and the court is okay with that. What they're not okay with is having vague things, like the whole state is not a sensitive area. And, I could see, no guns at Disneyland in California. I'd go with that. Maybe no guns on the state grounds in Sacramento in California. I don't know. But basically, what you're having to do now as the state is show cause. What's the reason for this? And how does it fit within the context of your constitutional rights? Places have brought up that the ARs are such a small percentage of guns, for example, that it's not common use, so we should get rid of them. I'm pretty sure that in excess of 25 million, not a small number. So sum and substance is, if the states had been reasonable, maybe the shooting enthusiasts or the gun rights activists might have been reasonable. I mean, keep in mind, in the beginning, when they first started talking about background checks, the NRA ultimately was for it. Why? Because it protected everybody. The laws that these states have been enacting or attempting to enact have been solely going after legitimate gun enthusiasts. I don't know if gun enthusiast is the right word, but people that enjoy hunting, target shooting, enjoying it as a sport, because it's not us, meaning the legitimate gun owners, who are out committing crimes. Because in every single one of these laws, they have had absolutely nothing in the law about incarcerating people that use guns and generally don't play well with others. They're really big on getting them out of prison. But, the funny thing is, they went to prison because they were, inappropriately using guns. So I would personally prefer, and let me put this in perspective, I'm a reasonably moderate to liberal guy. And I've said it before, I'm a Democrat and I'm a gun dealer. I fit a lot of weird pegs, or I wear a lot of different hats. And so one of the things about this is, and one of the things I'm very conservative about, are things like violent crime, crimes against children. There is no reason for those people to be back on the street. There's laws that require pedophiles that once they get out of prison have to register, and, from time to time I might see an email notifying me that a pedophile has moved into the neighborhood. Well, that's great. But the people that are being released after committing violent crimes do not have to do that. And one of the arguments is they've served their time. Well, the people that commit gun crimes are more likely to commit gun crimes than pedophiles are to go back to their ways. To go wind up back in prison. So, end result is we now have people that are very polarized, and the Supreme Court has basically said you're trying to screw the wrong people. Even the, if you go back to Illinois, even the sheriffs were refusing to enact the law. And in stupidity, you made a law that was unenforceable. And why was it unenforceable? How is the state going to get the information from the gun owners? They're not going to get it from the gun dealers. They're sure as hell not going to be able to get it from the ATF. The ATF and FBI are just concerned with background checks. They're not going to see anything I've sold until I go out of business, or there is a check on a weapon that may have been involved or recovered in a crime. So again, I ask the states and the state legislatures, I'm not telling you to believe that guns are bad. I'm telling you that you need to deal with the people that are committing crimes with them. I'm going to keep saying this over and over again, especially if you're stupid enough to keep recycling laws that are dumb. The first time I saw these stupid laws and what they were including, I'm like, they must have had a party that night and either alcohol or controlled substances were involved, and they were all sitting down with, hey, let's ban a grenade launcher. Yeah! You can't attach a grenade launcher to most shotguns because that was actually one of the things they included. Okay, that's enough for my rant on this topic. As always, I look forward to comments.